Hello, family. Happy Sunday to you. Praying that God is keeping you as He's keeping me. Praying that you're doing well and that you are making it through this month of June well, and that God has put favor and provision ahead of your life, is my prayer for you. So, I want to jump in today and not keep you all long today. I think today will be a bit more teaching. I may not shout you today, but this may be something that you may need to hear and know for your future. But, as usual, I want to start out with the praise break moment. And for this praise break, I want to give you a visual. And as I give you the visual, then I'll give you the praise break. So here we go. This is an image of a woodpecker's tongue. As you can see and see from the image, a woodpecker's tongue loops around its head, helping to protect its brain from the force of repeated pecking. I saw this image and I was arrested uh, at the thought of God at this image. Isn't it interesting that when we think about God and what He does for this woodpecker and even for our lives, the provision is already built in? Yeah, if you're going to get anything today, that's what I want to start this praise break with, is the provision is already built in. When you look at that woodpecker, you can see that without provision, he would hurt himself. The job of the woodpecker, that's where it gets its name, is to peck on wood. Without provision, he would injure himself. Isn't it interesting that his mouth and the tongue is what also is used to protect him? The very thing that he needs to speak and function is still the very thing that he's protected by. Oh my goodness. Somebody walking with me? God made a helmet out of what he has to use to sustain his life, and it's already built in. The provision is built in. So in essence, the ability to keep his head is already built in. And I don't know who that's for, but I felt a shout in that we serve a God who builds provision all within what he creates. The provision is already built in you. Everything that you need to not damage yourself is built in you. God has already provided the provision in you and I. The provision is already built in. Don't you think he's so wise as to know what you're going to go through and what you're going to hit your head against? Don't you think he's so wise to know that you can't go about continuing to walk this earth doing what you do unless he protects you in some way? The provision is built in. Your protection is already around you. And I don't know who that's for today, but you may need to stop and give God a praise break for the provision that's built in. Or I've had some provision in my life, and to know that God thought enough of me to already put it in me shouts me. That's all I got for your praise break moment. I pray that shouts you, gives you something to think about. And when you think about that and you take a look at that woodpecker in his life. All right, if you have your Bibles, open it up to the book of Judges, chapter 6. Judges chapter 6. We'll find a story nestled there from verse 33 through 40. Judges chapter 6, verse 33 through 40. And of course, I'm going to put it on the screen for you as well. Judges 6, 33 through 40. And you will find these words. Soon afterward, the armies of Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east formed an alliance against Israel and crossed the Jordan, camping in the valley of Jezreel. Then the Spirit of the Lord clothed Gideon with power. He blew a ram's horn as a call to arms, and the men of the clan of Abiezer came to him. He also sent messengers throughout Manasseh, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, summoning their warriors, and all of them responded. Then Gideon said to God, "If you are truly going to use me to rescue Israel as you promised, prove it to me this way. Prove it to me this way. I will put a wool fleece on the threshing floor tonight. If the fleece is wet with dew in the morning, but the ground is dry, then I will know that you're going to help me rescue Israel as you promised." And that is just what happened. When Gideon got up early that next morning, he squeezed the fleece and wrung out a whole bowl full of water. Then Gideon said to God, "Please don't be angry with me, but let me make one more request. Let me use the fleece for one more test. This time, let the fleece remain dry while the ground around it is wet with dew." So that night, God did as Gideon asked. The fleece was dry in the morning, but the ground was covered with dew. That is God's word for God's people. May it be blessed, and it will be blessed from now, even after time is no more. For a few moments, I want to talk to you with this subject, teaching, if it will. I probably do more teaching than preaching today. Impossible signs. Where is the evidence? Impossible signs. Where is the evidence? Message came to me after watching a Hulu documentary on the Titanic submersible implosion. I was watching that, and this popped in my head as I observed the things that we'll share and talk about today. But let's talk about signs. Signs can come from anywhere and anyone. One thing I've always prided myself in is listening to everyone, because I know God can get a message to me from anyone, even a child or a pet if he chooses. But some will only listen to those whom they deem qualified or at their level or superior, and thus many people miss God. This is very prominent among leaders. For some reason, they think that because they are in a position to lead, the only voice they can hear is their own, or someone at or above their level. One such scenario was what I witnessed in this OceanGate documentary on Hulu. The OceanGate leader that perished in his own submersible submarine, Stockton Rush. What I noticed was a mere worker bee had noticed something about one of the dives and saw a sign of things to come, and became a whistleblower, going well up the chain of command that reached all the way to Stockton Rush himself. But she was ignored, and she was even fired and dismissed because she was told she's not qualified to give engineering information. We know the rest of the story and what happens just a short time later. Family, I want to start off by telling you that if you can't hear from unqualified people, what leads you to think that you can hear from a qualified God? Yeah, if you can't hear from people who is unqualified, how do you know that you won't be able to hear from a qualified God? What if the message was there before you and you missed it because of blindness? What if the sign was given and you failed to see it because you refused to listen to what voice it was? We have failed to understand how to see God's sign in people, and dare I say, in the world. And many of us have had missteps in our life where we have missed the signs. Things we walked into that we should not have because we didn't see the signs, or we were unable or didn't have the knowledge to even test God, to see or to check with him to see if this is where I'm supposed to be. I wonder how many people got into bad relationships and stayed there because they missed the signs. I wonder how many people took job offers that they saw signs, and there were signs evident that that wasn't for you, but you took it anyway. Maybe the money was greater than the other one that seemed more stable, but you took the money instead. There are signs, family, that God will give that will seem impossible, but I declare in the impossibility, there lies the evidence. And so, let's take a look at the text. This is the text that I remember reading as a foundation for how I began to search to see where I'm supposed to be. Gideon. Who is Gideon? Gideon was a prominent military leader and judge of Israel whose story is recounted in this book of Judges. He's known for his victory over the Midianites with a small army of 300 men. Yeah, Gideon, also known as Jerubbaal, was from the tribe of Manasseh and was chosen by God to deliver Israel from the Midian oppression. But there was something about Gideon that's very similar to many of us today. He doubted his abilities at times. He didn't always know or believe he was on a path to victory or in the right place. We all want to know this, right? We all want to know if we're on the right path. If the place that we're at is the place that we're supposed to be at. Or is this thing God that is doing it, or is it just me? So Gideon, like many of us should, he seeks evidence. It's for confirmation and evidence and not necessarily for proof. Let me help you. See, getting evidence is different than proof. Proof means you don't believe God and won't go until he shows you. Doubting Thomas needed proof that Jesus was resurrected. He said, I will not believe until I stick my hand in his wounds. And so when Jesus was resurrected, he would not believe until he carried out the act himself. Gideon doesn't need proof. He already knows who God is. He already knows that he's been called by God. But in the midst of this fight, he simply wants to know and see evidence that God has favor upon him. Every now and then, family, you want to know that daddy's with you. Every now and then, you want to know that you're in the right place. Every now and then, you want just a little bit of evidence that will point you the way or even encourage you to where you're going. Yeah, he wanted evidence. He didn't want proof. He just wanted evidence. Proof will stagnate you. Proof will stop you. Thomas said, I won't believe. So he's saying, I won't go forward with the belief he's resurrected until I see for myself. But evidence simply points you the way. But then there is this other concept that I must introduce to you, and that's called confirmation. Once I have the evidence pointing me the way, then I may need clarification that this isn't left to my own logic, or that my enemy hasn't tried to do witness tampering with the evidence and is actually God and it's not him, the enemy. So I seek confirmation. I believe what I saw, but I want to know that it's confirmed by someone else, that when I tell the story, I can show everyone else that this, without a doubt, is from who I thought it was from. Confirmation is like the notary signing the document. I got the paper, but I need God to sign it. Yeah, when I would get permission slips for school, they didn't mean anything unless my mother's signature was on it. I had the paper, but unless my mother or father signed it, I wasn't going on that trip. Family, sometimes we want to make sure that God's signature is on points of our life where we're headed to the next level, and Gideon is here to teach us. Am I teaching good today? Well, here in the text, Gideon is called by God to defeat the armies, but as he gets ready to go, he just wants confirmation that he can see. So he makes a strange yet impossible request. He uses a fleece. A fleece is the wool cut from a single sheep. That wool cut would often still have lanolin on it, which is known as wool grease. This substance is also called a yolk. It's a secretion from the glands of the sheep. Lanolin comes from the wool grease, and I discovered that the word lanolin comes from Latin, which means lana, which means wool, and oleum, which means oil. This means that it has water shedding or waterproofing qualities in the fleece. Why this is interesting to use as a test was because it means that in one way it will shed water, and in another way it's waterproof. So some of the requests that Gideon is asking, there are impossibilities within this request. Two tests of this nature from Gideon that has to be seen to believe. I'll walk you through them and I'll bid you good day. Test 1. If I'm really chosen to win this, I'm putting this waterproof fleece on the ground, and if it's wet and the ground is dry, I'll know it's you. How this thought came to him, we don't know. But I'll suggest to you later that God also knows and controls your thoughts and knows your thoughts in advance in his will at how he'll suggest it to you. He visualized it and then he asked for it. He comes out the next morning and the waterproof fleece is wet and nothing rolled off of it or saturated the ground. God had done it. An impossible request, an impossible sign, and it happens. Now, test number 2. Here comes a lot of debate on why would he need a second test. Because many of us operate the same as Gideon. God has spoken once, but oftentimes we need to hear him twice. We've seen his impossibility, but we have also seen the devil do things. Bad signs have damaged us, so we often ask for what is called confirmation. God said something, and instead of us looking at the impossibility and being like, I see you, Lord, I'm going, Lord, we want him to say it again before we go. Oh, I remember when if my mama had called me more than once, I would get popped for not hearing her the first time. Family, there is a shout here that God is so patient that even if we act like we didn't hear him the first time, he'll say it to us again. That'll shout anybody. Even though we ignored him the first time, he'll give us a secondary confirmation. So Gideon asked for this confirmation. Confirm for me that I'm going to win and I'm chosen for this. This time make the ground wet and make the fleece, even though the water would roll off of it, the oil, it should still make it wet. Now make that now dry and make the ground wet. Another impossibility. Let it be dry and the dew be all around it. And God does it again. Now Gideon believes and goes forward. Family, knowing this story lets us in on the fact that we serve a God that is willing to show you his will and then confirm it for you. But many of us are either afraid to ask or we just don't. Ask him to show you a sign for the job. Ask him to show you if you're supposed to be where you are when you're looking at houses. Ask him about the spouse that you are to marry. He will tell you if you're a man and you're asking a woman in marriage, he will tell you if that rib is yours or not. Ask him about the next step in your business. Show me. You can even ask God about what you should name the baby, and God will give you that name. Almost anything you can think of to know his will, oftentimes you can ask him and he'll show it to you, and then he'll also confirm it. Sometimes he will show you signs of warnings and detours. Sometimes not even if you ask. Sometimes he'll set it up so that you should be able to ask, but you won't. Look at Stockton Rush. Ocean Gate Submersible had a sign and then had a second sign. It went all the way. It had multiple signs, but he did not adhere. I don't know his faith, if he knew the Lord or not. But the evidence is that whether he knew the Lord or not, he listened to and asked for no signs. Because had he gotten the signs, seen the signs, we know that the results may not have been what they were. Family, that's all I got for you today. These are impossible signs. You have to go to God again. Maybe you are there now. You need God to show you something about your next steps. Ask him, and he will show you. And then say after he shows it to you, even when you don't believe, we serve a God who will tell you anyhow. Give you a confirmation of what he showed you. Impossible signs. Where is the evidence? It's all around you, and it's available to those who ask him. He will show you clearly that he's with you for the win, and he's even with you in the losses, ensuring you win again. I'm going to close now with this. This is my close. I've never on a platform told the story of my calling, but I'll tell it to you here. So, as I tell this story, I'm going to place the image on the screen. I've often had people, when I was growing up, tell me that I was going to be a preacher. You know, I've had that. I grew up in the church. I've had people say, you know, the way I read or the way I prayed, that I'd be a preacher. My grandmother never said that, actually. She never told me that. But she did confirm it, but she never told me that. So, being a church boy, but I'm also from a city, Gary, Indiana, where, you kind of got to survival of the fittest. You kind of got to be a little tough. So I didn't think about any type of preaching. Anyway, I come to California, and I started introducing songs for the choir. We would do this thing that if there was a song that was going to be sung, then they would have one of us youth. I was young at the time in the youth and young adult choir. Somebody would introduce the song, just tell you what the song is about or what scripture the song would be about. Anyway, I'd get up and do that, and I guess I did it well because I would get a lot of comments from people at the church. I'm 17, I'm 18 years old, and so I'd get a lot of comments. And on one particular day, I guess I had done it for one of the songs we were singing. I'm in the parking lot. Someone comes up to me and says, "You know what? God's got a call on your life." And I'm like, I'm shrugging it off. And he says, "You need to ask God to show you a sign, and he'll show it to you." And so I didn't think anything of it, but then I heard it some more later on. I'm still not believing it. I'm still like, I don't want to play around with nothing like this, and I don't want to be a preacher. God knows I really didn't. I really don't. And so to this day, I do it because we have to. If you talk to a preacher and they tell you that I wanted to be this and I wanted to do this, then I don't know. I would question the calling because there is so much that comes with it. I can't even begin to tell you the pain that I've had to endure, taking on other people's pain, and the people that you've got to be strong for when you're burying them. You would never even understand. Or the demons that you had to battle, if you battled real demons. Anyway, so I didn't believe that. So years, well, not even years, a couple years go by, and I hear it again. And this time I decide to do like Gideon. I just say, you know what? I'm going to ask God for a sign. And the first thing that came to my memory, my vision, it was a vision that came to me, actually, that I asked God to give me a sign for. And the vision, all I saw was a penny in a puddle of water. A penny in a puddle. I seen the vision. It was a penny in a puddle of water. And on the penny, I think I came up with the other piece of the call. I said, well, if it's a penny in water, why would I be looking at a penny unless it had something on it that said me? And so I said, a penny in water with my year of birth on the penny. That's what I asked God for. A penny in water, with the year of my birth on the penny. So I had lived at a residence, moved away from a residence with my aunt and uncle. I'm living, I'm married. I'm married. This is 1997. So years go by that I asked for this sign. Matter of fact, how many times do you pray for something and you forget about it? Years go by and I ask for this sign. Anyway, I'm going to my aunt and uncle's house in 97 to pick up some mail that was there for me. As I go, and I'll share the image now. As I go to get that mail, it's a rainy day. I'm walking to their place, and it's nearing dark, but not quite dark. And as I walk up, there is a puddle. In the puddle is a penny. I look down, and as I go to pick it up, I remember the prayer. As I go to pick it up, I remember the prayer. And so now I'm nervous. I'm worried. I'm concerned that this is God talking to me from something that I had talked to him about way before. And so as I pick it up, I look at it, and the penny is heavily damaged. It had been ran over. It was dirty. It was near black. And so I go into the house, and I kind of bypass my uncle, and I'm like, he want to know what's the matter. And I said, I can't tell you right now. Let me go to the restroom. I go in the restroom, and I begin to feverishly scrub that penny. As I scrub that penny, what can be made out in that number that was damaged and scarred was the year 1972. So now I'm totally tripping. And I'm like, well, I remember the sign, but it's a fluke. Now you can get where Gideon is going. I remember the sign, but I'm like, nah, I'm not going to accept this. This can't be. Well, wouldn't let me sleep at night. I'm not sleeping. So God is still on me about this sign. And I'm still thinking about it. And I'm still nervous about it. And I'm not acting on this thing. Okay. I'm just telling you, I have no inclination of acting on it. I get to church that Sunday, and I'm not telling anybody about this because, once again, who's gonna believe me? Kind of impossible, right? It's a thing. Nobody's gonna believe me that I prayed that prayer so many years ahead, and then happened, and then remembered it, and then go see, and then now it's everything that I said in the vision, I saw in the vision, happened in real life, and it's got God pointed all over it. Who's gonna believe that? And so I confide in one person. One person. At the time, Pastor Gaines' assistant is my brother, Reverend Carlos Millsap. 1997. This is almost 30 years ago. Or over 30 years ago, actually. Is it almost 30 years ago? Almost 30 years ago. And so I confide in him. And I tell him about the story. I don't even know. I knew him, but we weren't even as close as we are now. We're very close now. And so I confide in him about the penny. Don't think anything of it. He tells me, well, God is, I see it on you. And I certainly think that God, this is just how God can operate. And he's telling me all these things. And so I leave it alone and I go home. I get home and there's a voicemail message on my answer machine for me to call him. So I call him. And immediately he said, Joel, you're not going to believe this. And so he says, as I was walking home, I'm walking up to my door, and on my doorstep is a penny. I pick it up, and it said 1972. Now, I'm getting confirmation. Do you guys understand what Gideon was doing here? Now I've got confirmation. It's not enough that God had already called me and I didn't believe him and I wasn't going to do it. He knew that I wasn't going anywhere unless somehow he confirmed it. And he confirmed it. And so now, as you can see, I keep these in a case. I never looked back from there. And that was the start of a physical calling that God has had on my life. Now, when I mentioned not wanting to do it, that's fine. But what have been the benefits? The benefits of my calling is basically that same year that I was accepted a call, I was diagnosed with sarcoidosis, a disease that I've had, autoimmune disease that I've had all that time since 1997. So with that call came other things. But my shout goes back to our praise break. My provision has always been built in. Everything about my life has already been built in. The favor that I've had on my life for choosing him has been everywhere. So what do I tell you, family? Ask God for a sign. Let him show you, and then he'll show you again. These are impossible signs. I carry around what I believe is impossible because who else knew this story except for me, God, and Reverend Millsap? Yet God did what he did. Does he still do that today? I believe he does. All you have to do is ask. So all I got for you, family. That was my first time sharing my coming to ministry and how I was called. I pray that helps somebody to open up and to ask God for these signs and confirmations so that you would know for yourself where you're supposed to be in this life. And I've had other things that I've asked God for signs for, including my wife. So I've had other things that God have given me signs for in my life. This is something that I use regularly. And God don't get mad at me for asking him. He don't get mad at me for asking for directions, right? God is so loving of his family and knowing that he wants to see you in heaven with him, that he's willing to give you directions. Isn't that something? You meet some folk and they don't want to tell you which way to go on the road. God wants you to live your life getting directions. Get your directions from him. Impossible signs. Where is the evidence? Just put in the chat. It's me. I'm the evidence. God bless you all. Love you. There's nothing that you can do about it, me loving you. And then I believe next week, of course, is going to be Father's Day. And I think my family they always do something nice for me. So I'll probably share or reshare one of our other streams for that particular day. I kind of think I know the stream that I'll share was the one I just did not too long ago. It wasn't Father's Day, but it was a pretty good one about fathers. So enjoy and enjoy your Father's Day, fathers, and know that I love you. Know that I love all of you. There's nothing you can do about it. God bless and God keep you always.